In the time it takes me to finish this first sentence, you can guess that Henry Rollins has crossed 11 things off his daily schedule. Beginning his career in the incredibly influential punk band Black Flag, which you might recognize from the t-shirt of "Every bass player in recorded history." Henry Rollins has gone on to become a respected author, actor, radio and television host, world traveler, and live spoken word performer, who will be bringing The Long March, his latest talking tour, to Kingston tonight at the Time to Laugh Comedy Club. His tour includes stories from his recent travels to North Korea, Vietnam, India, Sudan, and many more. I began by asking about the challenges of traveling to these areas of the world as the highly recognizable Henry Rollins.
Well, I was told when I was in North Korea, I said, the travel agent said, don't get recognized. Like, just don't, that's not going to be, it could potentially really complicate things. So, of course, when I was there, British people, Australian people recognized me, and my tour guide started saying, well, why are these people talking to you? And it got really, got a little dicey there for a minute.
Was it difficult at all to manage what you were doing there and also be completely anonymous about it?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, same thing in Iran, where I was trying just to, be fairly low-key, because the guy who got me my visa, he said, if the tour, he said, I am not your tour guide. If your tour guide recognizes you, it could be very bad for me, very bad for you. He said, bad for me, it means that he'll just kick you out. But bad for me in that, I got to live here. So you got to be careful. And then, of course, my tour spy, Iranian guy, he started asking me all, like, so what did you say you do again? And he kept coming back around to what do you do? It was very interesting. It made me wonder on what he knows of me. And it was a kind of a weird game we were playing.
Do situations like that give you pause as far as going to these places, or is it all the more reason to go because people are living in that kind of atmosphere?
I'm going to go because I want to know, and it's the only way to do it. If you want to know, you got to go. So, I just have to take those challenges as they come my way. But I'm not going to sit at home just because something bad might happen.
I want to read you a letter by an American who wrote me the other day. So anyway, this fellow says basically, hello, Henry, I hope you get this before you get to South Africa. If I were famous like you, I would hire a well-trained and well-armed security team to surround you at all times. And don't think I'm being a little paranoid, but you might want to investigate a briefcase or a car that has flamethrowers to ward off possible carjackers and kidnappers.
Speaking more to your tour at the moment, given how it differs from a conventional band's tour to promote a record, etc., how do you determine when it's time to hit the road for a talking tour?
Oh, it's every other year. It's kind of regimented. I have inhale years and exhale years. On the inhale year, I go into the world, I take photos, I interview people, I get information, I travel. I get stuff to make stories into. I get the content. And then there's an exhale year, like 2012, where I'll be on stage talking about it. So next year, I'll be out like a squirrel gathering nuts.
Right.
And I got to figure out where I'm going to go, and I still have to stay employed. So I have to figure out if I can get a job and still do traveling. So those inhale years that are tricky. Exhale year is nothing but employment. I'm on stage every night, so I've got a dinner waiting for me. But on the inhale years, it's very, very tricky.
When you are spending those years gathering material for the following years speaking, do you come across things that you like, that you feel passionate about, but that you realize probably can't be dealt with on certain parts of the tour, whereas perhaps it can be in others?
That's an interesting question. No, I would never. No, just an uncomfortableness of a topic would never be kind of verboten in any geographical point because of what it might do to how it might discomfort myself or the audience. Absolutely not. No, the parts that are uncomfortable, that's what you go right for, actually, in my way of thinking.
The letter I wrote back to this guy, I said, we have hired 30 armed security for the day. I know some might think it's a bit much, but I think it's worth it. We have 9 tanks, overhead support of 2 Apache gunships. We will have, I think, 3 Bengal tigers and 2 old ladies disguised as old ladies to take care of any old ladies who try to attack.
In terms of your live spoken show, you've been critical of the Bush administration. Has the current Obama presidency provided as much material for the live show, or is it kind of a welcome break?
No, I mean, there's some of his policies that, you know, I would like to be out of Afghanistan. I don't necessarily approve of his drone strikes. I wish Osama bin Laden had been arrested and not executed, because this is really not the country that, you know, I think America should be.
Sure.
But at least we're not hemorrhaging money and starting yet another fake war in some sovereign nation to get to the oil. And that would be the Bush administration that bankrupted America. That's not up for real discussion at this point, although Republicans will argue they don't really have a leg to stand on there, nor do they have any real achievements they can point to and say, we did that and you should, you know, let us do it again. They just tell you how much the president is a bad man and how austerity measures will be good for everyone. So, you know, and the people who agree with that, fantastic. We'll see how they like their streets without at least their firemen to take care of things. And so things are, in some ways, you know, very bad in America because you have an inactive Congress, and you have people who are reacting to what the president is doing by saying no. And so you have basically a 3-point-something year logjam of relative governmental inactivity just because they're trying to pin the president to the ground, thinking like that might be a strategy for victory in 2012 in the elections. It's definitely going to go. I don't know if it's going to be successful.
So she pulled me on stage, and I'm walking closer and closer to James Brown, and I'm remembering that I have rehearsed for this moment so many times in the mirror. Mr. Brown, my name is Henry Rollins. It's an honor to meet you, sir. Mr. Brown, my name is Henry Rollins. It's an honor to meet you, sir. He's sitting there looking at the audience of these people kind of, you know, getting their microphones ready. She slams a stool down next to Mr. Brown. She goes, Henry, sit down. And I sit down, and she goes, Mr. Brown, this is Henry Rollins. And he looks over, he's like, ha, God bless you. I said,
Despite a travel schedule that would drive most ordinary men to the old Milwaukee brewery, the die-hard music fan inside of Henry Rollins still manages to find the time to produce a weekly radio show for KCRW, a national public radio affiliate based in Southern California.
But it's a fun thing to do. I've had a radio show for almost 10 years now, and I quite enjoy it. I would really miss not having it. It's a great way to communicate. I really enjoy, you know, relating to people by music. Like, you know, here, check this out. You know, and my hope is that young people listen to the show, and we can somehow turn them on to something like, you know, John Coltrane, or, you know, something that is in their parents' record collection, which they might not think has any validity. And then you find out, wow, my parents were cool too, or at least there's way more music out there than I thought. In that, you know, when I was younger, you know, punk rock, pretty much. But thankfully, my mother had raised me with jazz and classical and, you know, some interesting music. So I always knew other things were out there, so I remained open-minded for other people I would hang out with, you know, not as much. You know, they were the one genre of music, and everything else was, you know, why are you listening to that for? You know, well, I don't know, because there's a lot of good music out there, why wouldn't I? And so, hopefully, you know, you crack someone's mind open,
I said, he did a live album many years ago called Live at the Apollo Volume 3, Revolution of the Mind. It is, to me, the greatest live album ever recorded. It's James Brown and his band when they are at their deadliest. And it seems like everyone at the Apollo in Harlem was a woman in love with him. When he's not singing, he's obviously dancing. All you hear is just, ah! Boy, the whole band got laid that night. You know that happened. And so I said, greatest live album. And Mr. Brown goes like, this man knows what he's talking about. And he grabs me and hugs me again. I'm like, trying not to come in my pants. It was a great moment for me.
I'm sure you've likely been asked for advice by young bands for as long as you've been in the business. Given how the record industry has changed over the last 10 to 12 years with the decline of record labels and online participation escalating, has your advice for a band that comes to you changed at all?
No. I mean, I've always gone at it from an artistic point of view. The only time I get mechanical is I said, don't sign anything without a lawyer. I mean, don't sign anything. You have to be very, very careful. I always advise that record labels, for the most part, are probably not interested in your best interest because they're not you. You have to look out for yourself. But otherwise, I would just say what I always thought was the right thing, which is, be original. Do your own thing. Don't listen to other bands and draw your conclusions. Find the music inside yourself and go with that. And sometimes you have to, break off a lot of friendships and, go live a different life to achieve that. It's not easy, but that's the objective.
So when you look at the landscape of when you first started out and you look at what people are dealing with now, your mindset would, were you to be starting today, your mindset would basically be the same?
Well, yeah. I mean, I come from the DIY world of music, and I think over the years, the DIY method has proven itself to be probably the safest for a band. Owning your own publishing, owning your own songs, recording yourself, releasing on your own label, the internet, and the avarice of the record labels, the combination of those two factors has made it very good for bands to do it on their own. I mean, labels like Sony and those big labels, they don't make the money they used to, and in part from technology, also in part of their greed, and the fact that they thought for a minute they could sell anybody anything, which is very rude. And so they sold a lot of crappy records, and they forced a lot of bands to make records before they were ready to make them, just to get product out there. And so a lot of good bands were torn from the vine before they were ripe. And so you're never going to get to hear their full potential because they were never able to realize it because they were, the industry was dictating the art instead of the other way around. When people are on an independent label or doing their own thing, the art dictates the industry as it should. And that's why, in my opinion, music is really good right now. Because there's so many people going, I don't need to be on MTV. I don't care about being on the radio. I have an audience somewhere else.
A big thanks to Henry Rollins for taking some time out of his schedule to chat with your old pal Benny. Run, don't walk to the Time to Laugh Comedy Club tonight as Henry Rollins brings the Long March Tour to Kingston with doors at 7 p.m. For more information on Henry, head over to the Information Superhighway at, you guessed it, www.henryrollins.com.